Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Decision Hour. I'm Adam, and normally with me was Patty, but she is off today, so I'm flying solo. You get to hear me today, and I'm super stoked about today's guest. I'm gonna jump right into it. Our guest today, very special guest. I consider her one of our nation's heroes. She is an amazing gal. She's an intel officer. She's been deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. She was awarded the Bronze Star. She's also an award-winning author for her book, The Frontline Generation, How We Served Post 9/11. She is the recipient of the 2019 10 Outstanding Young Americans Awards. Also the creator of the 2019 Bicycle Collector's Item, the Post 9/11 Deck of 52. So without further ado, please help me welcome Marjorie K. Eastman. Marjorie, how you doing?
You forgot that I make a mean lasagna.
Yes.
And I can.
And she ships that too, folks. She's taking orders this week. So.
Oh my goodness! Thank you. I appreciate the kind introduction, and I always chuckle when I hear someone talk about my past as an intelligence officer, and then in the same breath, and she just wrote a book. It's like that is the last thing an intelligence officer should do, or anyone in intelligence should write a book, right? Intelligence,
right?
Thinking,
yeah. We're gonna get that and see just how much intel is in that one, right? There we go.
Yeah, so maybe out of the gates I should start there. And my book, I am an accidental author, all the way accidental author. My book is for my son, and it was to share the stories of the men and women I served with so it could shape the man that he becomes one day.
Oh, that is beautiful.
And so that, the book is the story of our post 9/11 generation of people who find that front line and they find a way to step up, and they find a way to help and own their sphere of influence and make a difference. And so it's about service and character and leadership. It's about our tribe.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, okay, and that book came out when? When did you start, putting that together? Was that something that you put together and kind of like journaled throughout your military career, or was this just something like you sat down last minute and was just kind of like, I'm going to put this together and this is for my son? How did that start?
Yeah, well, so I kept journals on my two deployments for Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003, OIF-1, and then Operation Enduring Freedom, Afghanistan from 2009 through 2010. So I kept journals every night, and it was really just a way of kind of emptying my brain at the end of the night. It was a release, and I needed that more so on the second deployment rather than the first. The first, I was enlisted. I had been in the Army for about a day, and I just didn't know people. I didn't know, and I was like one of 4 or 5 females on a base of 2,000 men that was forward deployed, So I felt so isolated. So having that journal was a great way to kind of just write things out, sort things out, and put it away. And then I had it to, really reflect on it. Really, that first journal became a smart book for me because it really helped me understand how I wanted to be as a soldier and what I wanted to do with the rest of my time in the military. And so it was my smart book on leadership and all those things that I mentioned. And then the second one, by the second tour, I risen through the ranks, and I was a commander by that point. And I received my commission. I was in the intelligence field, and it was so much about the story of the day. Because leadership's lonely. You can't have the same conversations and relationships when you're in certain positions. And so my husband was very savvy to this, and he gave me that journal right before I deployed, and he knew that we wouldn't be able to talk because he's my mentor, my advisor, my best friend. He's amazing. He also has, his career is knockout, 20 years in the military. He was also former enlisted, was a Ranger, jumped into Afghanistan, and went on to fly Apaches, and then retired out of the 160th as a Little Bird pilot. So I had quite the amazing, best friend and advisor for my military career. But that second deployment was a journal that most of those were writing to Charles, my husband, and telling him the story of the day, or just what you go through as a commander.
That's really cool. Now you moved. I want to jump back because you said you started off as enlisted, got a direct commission. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
And you moved up in the rank fairly quickly from the direct commission up into a commander. That wasn't long that you were in the military that happened, right?
Well, my mom, she's so funny when I call her, and she knows how I am by this point, right? And she's like, "All right, Marjorie, what you up to these days? You staying out of trouble?" I said, "Staying out of trouble or making trouble?" And so, she also knows I have my dad's mouth on me, and I speak up and I speak out, and I've just never been that person that raised my hand. So I work on that every day. But yeah, I just kind of went down the road and charted my path, and I'm so fortunate and blessed that I've had the people along the way that have helped shape me into being a better version of myself.
I love it. So that's your military career. Let's kind of fast forward a little bit. You talked about a little bit about your military career. You have the book. And I see on here that you're also a keynote speaker. First off, folks, let me back up, Marjorie, real quick if I can. Those of you that are listening to this right now means you're already online, okay? You can get her book. You can listen to her book. I believe there's audio version of it too. Go to her website, Marjorie K. Eastman. That's all one word. MarjorieKEastman.com. Okay, so follow along. If you're listening to this, open up another browser as you're listening to this and go to MarjorieKEastman.com. Okay, so Marjorie, you're a keynote speaker, you're a contributing writer, and this year you were a recipient of the 2019 10 Outstanding Young Americans Award.
Yeah, that's a mouthful, right?
It is. But I'm seeing some of the honorees on this are like the honorees of past for this award are people such as like John F. Kennedy, Chuck Yeager, Elvis Presley. I mean, it's quite a list.
I know, Nixon and Quayle, and it is just wild. When I learned that I received that honor and that recognition, I was speechless. So, but we never get where we are alone. And I am just so grateful for everyone that has shaped my path. And I think a large part in why I was recognized for the Toya award is the writing and the projects that I've been doing since I left the military, which I never ever would have thought would have been my path. That's for sure. Because again, accidental author. That's my starting point.
Well, let's talk more about it. You said you get recognized for the things that you're doing after the military. Let's talk. Let's go down some of those. Why don't you name to our listeners some of those things that you're doing? Because there's a big one that we're definitely going to talk about today that happened this year as well.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, when you if you are on, that page and you're looking through my background, when I joined the military, it was right after 9/11, and because of 9/11, it was just, very simple for me to say, hey, no one does that to our country. I need to be part of this generation's story, and I need to do something and step up. I need to find a way to serve. So my best fit, I looked at everything, Peace Corps and Teach for America, and you name it. And I just kept coming back around to the military. At the time, I was applying to grad school, and so my recruiter was, so terrific. I loved my recruiter. I ended up sending him a thank you card from basic training, which he said he never received before. I don't know why.
I can't imagine why they don't. So.
And all this time to write.
Right.
Some, front-leaning rest position. No. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I just, the military was my fit. And so I joined the Army Reserve because like I said, I had those applications out, and my recruiter was terrific in advising me and saying, hey, you can, volunteer for activations, or you can have this flexibility to go to grad school and be in the reserves. And it just fit everything for where I was. And so of my 10 years on the books in the Army Reserve, I think I was activated nearly half of those, and to include those 2 combat deployments. So, it was just such a really interesting time to spend, like 22 to 32, because it was, those are the formative years that you're kind of shaping your path in so many ways. And what I thought then was, that was when you would say, who do I want to be? How am I going to make a difference? How my life's going to count? I thought those were like those questions that you're especially asking in your 20s. Well, spoiler alert, we ask those questions throughout our lives. We really do. We are constantly, I think, thinking about, what is our why? What's our purpose? And I mean, we're not just here to breathe and steal oxygen. We are here to make a difference. Right. We all have a purpose.
I love that, and you're right. It's something that we hit on so hard here at the Decision Hour and with our parent network, Heroes Media Group, is find your why, but more importantly, have a purpose, and I love that you state that.
So current projects. That was your question.
Yep. Current projects.
Yes. So you've probably heard a little bit about the book. I hope you check it out. Like I said, or maybe you mentioned this, there is an Audible version if you're a commuter or if you just like that format. But it was just an incredible experience of capturing those stories. And the reason why I published it, let me back up. The reason why I wrote the book, again, was absolutely for my beautiful son. My little boy today is 7 years old. Oh. And my little boy, he also has the amazing miracle of being able to say he's 7 years old and he's cancer free, because when he was 6 months old, he was diagnosed with cancer, and my whole world just stopped. It was my major crucible. I mean, there's a special kind of hell for when you go through situations like that in life. And I was there, and my husband, we were right there going through that with our little baby. And, I started the story with the good news. Today he is 7 and he's cancer free. Yes. But I was really writing those stories down because I had to remind myself I was strong. And I wanted to write the stories about the man I hoped he would be, because I was convincing myself he was going to be a man. He was going to make it. And thank God, praise God, he is doing really, really well today. And he's been 6 years cancer free. So we are so blessed. I had all of those stories on my computer. I was literally just going to print it off when he was age appropriate and give it to him. But I started having experiences and people and nudging that people knew I was writing, because I told close friends and families, they were checking in on me, say, how are you dealing with this, Marjorie? Are you okay? And I shared, these are things I'm doing. Of course, I'm continue to exercise, clear my mind. I'll continue to keep my faith strong and keep on with, church and God and all that. And I'm going to write, because I didn't realize that writing was very, so much of therapy for me, to just, write those stories and just to feel like I had some part in helping it get along the way of, making it so that my son would be okay, because I was going to write about him as a man. And so, when I had shared with people that I was writing, I had enough nudges and people that said, Marjorie, I would love to read those stories. I would love to know that mission you had talked about you guys when you went to the orphanage, or that one where you guys, where you drove over the IED and it didn't go off, or, the different experiences that you and your soldiers and people you served with went through, because this is the truth of it. Our country really doesn't know our generation of service members. Right. And so it was an effort to really help tell more of our story and help shape our narrative in a more accurate, loving way. Because a lot of the narrative is like extreme hero, you're obviously a special forces sniper dude, right? Or you're broken.
Right. and that's there's such an extreme from one end to to the other, you know? There's like, well, what's in the middle?
Right. Right, and for me on my part, it was funny because I had been out of the military for a couple of years, and I just kept getting asked whenever I would have military paraphernalia, or my Jeep at the time had a Bronze Star license plate. I get so many, oh, was your husband in the military?
Oh.
And it was this constant, it was just ridiculous. And I'm like, God bless, do people not realize women serve in the military and what we've been doing,
right.
Post 9/11, especially because the way that women were serving post 9/11 in the Middle East was truly changing the tide of having, women there on mission and being able to speak with women in the Middle East through our interpreters and through our interrogations. It was a game changer. So yeah, it was definitely a sign. And so for that project, that kind of grew after the book came out. I did a lot of contributing writing, and then I started writing a weekly blog because I wanted to keep talking about our community and sharing more of who we are, that we're a positive force in our economy and our culture. And so I was writing a business column and pulled, on some of my background in business and my education in business to talk about our community in that way. And so I did a weekly column in 2018 highlighting businesses and charities that were started by veterans or their family members after 9/11. And it was a really fun project. It was all online. It was an online column, and the eye-catching visual was to put that company or charity's logo on a playing card, and that was absolutely a spin-off from the '03 Iraqi deck.
Huh. Go on.
So you and I know about the '03 Iraqi deck.
I think we do. Yes, we do.
So I was young and enlisted at the time, OIF-1, and literally received a soft copy. One of my sergeants hey, print these out, put rubber bands around them, get these out to people that are moving forward tomorrow night, blah, blah, blah. And so that was, I was looking at this and I had no idea, because think about those first deployments for Iraq. I mean, this was way before Facebook or LinkedIn or smartphones. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have any connectivity back home when we were at those early months and early years, right?
No, well, I remember from February, March, April timeframe. I mean, even comms were
right
okay at best,
Yeah, exactly. So, what everyone knows about, and if you know about the 2003 Iraqi Most Wanted deck, it was just brilliant. And it was what we've been doing for generations in the military. If you go back to World War II, they would put silhouettes of aircraft on playing cards so that during soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, during their downtime, they would be, kind of learning and memorizing, these outlines of aircraft, so that when they were on mission and they needed to identify an aircraft, it was there, right?
Right.
And so it's a way to teach, inform, and bring awareness. And so that was what just an outstanding group of intelligence professionals came up with as an idea of how are we going to find our high value targets when we go into Iraq? Because it's kind of like, hey, everybody looks like each other, how do we identify people, when you are exposed to a new culture, right. People laugh about that, but it's like,
it's true.
And then you can't even, ask your average person to say the name,
right.
There was this funny spoof on Comedy Central with, I think it was Colbert, that was trying to say one of the names, and it's like, it's like he's trying to say it, and it's like, blah,
Yeah.
So this terrific team of intelligence professionals said, hey, we can't expect for our operators to memorize this list of 50-ish people, their names, their faces, when they sit down at the, classified, system, and then go out on mission and, remember them. So let's give them a deck of cards, right?
Right.
And so that's what it's all about. It was a high value list of the bad guys. And the flip of where we are today in 2019 and bringing awareness to the military community and these awesome organizations that our community has founded, it's a deck of good guys. It's, the 52 in the deck are representative of all the service branches. You have ranks across the board, all walks of life. And it's just really a fun way to learn about the community and just be inspired.
It's a positive. I think it's a huge uplifting positive. And when these cards came out, and I recognized, I mean, I know you and I both know a lot of people in this deck. And obviously you, because since you put it together, but when the deck first came out, I was like, oh my God, I know a lot of these people. And it was such a cool thing to see. And it because there's enough negativity in the world, and I really think that this is a kind of a positive thing for the veteran community to see, and I hope everyone gets it. Now this is it's a collector's item, which means it's like a limited edition. They're only making these for a certain amount of time. Is that correct?
That's right. They are going to stop printing these bicycle collectibles. And I guess I should share that part of the story. So it was just a business column. And then in December of last year, I was on the phone with the CEO of U.S. Playing Cards, historic U.S. playing cards, over 1885 or 65. They've been around forever, largest manufacturer and distributor of playing cards in the world, iconic American brand, as we know, Bicycle and Hoyle and all these amazing playing cards, right?
Yeah.
And when I talked with the CEO, amazing human being, his name is Mike, and he, telling him about the project, and I said, hey, can I just get some of these decks printed out because I want to give them to the companies and charities I featured as a, hey, attaboy, way to go, keep going here. I'm really proud of you, and just, give them that kind of, nudge of, saying great job. And he's like, well, I can't do that because I can't print their logos without trademark approval and all the legal paperwork. But he said, Marjorie, that's not enough. He goes, this is really something special. This is collectible. And so I'd like to tell you, like, hey, let's make this a bicycle collectible next year. And I'm like, oh yes. Wow. I'm like, wow, what does that mean? And so what that means is, it is part of the history book. So the last time there was anything deemed like a bicycle collectible that was military related was the 03 Iraqi Most Wanted.
Golly.
And then before that, it was, throughout history, you had, Bicycle and U.S. Playing Cards has partnered and been supportive and been locked arm in arm with the military doing these decks of cards for every generation. And so this is a post 9/11 bicycle collectible generation, and it's bringing awareness to what our community is capable of and how we are, again, that positive force in our economy and our culture. So there's out of the 52, there's 30 businesses, there's 22 charities, and they're not just charities of like, hey, veterans help veterans. These are charities like, that are only helping veterans, like Wounded Warrior Project, which is the Jack of Clubs, or the Ace of Hearts is Team Red, White, and Blue. It also has charities on here like Global Vision 2020, which is started by an awesome Marine named Kevin. And I'm looking for his card. He's the 8 of Diamonds. And he is putting eyeglasses on, little kids and people all around the world, and helping them see. He's just amazing. He has an amazing mission. And Marine started this awesome international charity. So it is a really interesting way to see our community. And so for veterans, if you're a veteran or part of the military community as a family member or a supporter, for you, it's affirmation. Like, this is who you are. You're collectible. You're legendary. You're part of history. You are a frontline leader. Keep going. And oh, by the way, this deck will be a great resource of cool businesses and charities. Right. If you're not part of the military community, this is a terrific way to get to know the community and be part of us. So you're going to learn, these awesome charities. Hey, go pick out 3 of them and volunteer or donate or get involved. And you're by way and extension of getting involved in part of what frontline leaders are and what we do. And then support the businesses. People say buy America all the time. Awesome. Yeah. Check out these veteran-owned businesses. And the businesses started by family members. They're pretty amazing.
Now, where can people get this deck?
You can get the deck on Amazon, like everything else in the world, right? You can also get it on bicyclecards.com. If you buy it on bicyclecards.com, a portion of the proceeds are going to be donated to the 22 charities in the deck.
Nice.
So that feels really good. So
Awesome.
People make your decision.
Awesome. Well, Margie, we're coming up on time, and I want to ask you one last question. It's a question that we ask everybody, all of our guests that come on the show. The show is called The Decision Hour, and what we'd like to ask you is name a time in your life where your feet were on the line and you had to make that decision. Now, you've given quite a few examples, and we make decisions every day, but name a time in your life where your feet are on the line and you had to make that decision. What was it? And it could be anything, whether getting married, joining the military, getting out of the military, what have you. What was that decision, and can you explain what the atmosphere was like for you at that time?
Oh, my goodness. That's a great question, because it's so much about what my book and the naming of my book, The Frontline Generation. The front line is not a place. It's us. It's people, right? And also the front line is a decision point. It's when you need to make a decision and step up to something and be part of the solution. So I could grab, 7 dozens of examples from the book, but I want to get real here. I mean, the most important decisions we make are about people in our lives. And I got to tell you, I think the most important decision you can make is the person that you say, hey, I'm hitching my wagon and we're gonna be partners here. So my best decision was when my husband said, would you marry me? And I said yes. And it was at his parents' house in Maine. It was snowing. It was Christmas Eve. So you can kind of get the setting. And by that point in time, I knew Charles for about 6 months, but I knew enough to know, like, wow, this guy is different than everyone else I've ever met, and he's amazing. So that's what I would say. You've got to, in my head, I was thinking I'm in my mid-20s. I'm not supposed to get married yet. I have all these things I have to do, But you've got to trust. Decisions are so much about the head and the heart in agreement, or pushing on each other. You've got to, really just be mindful and aware of that. And I knew that this was it. So that would be the decision, I would say.
I freaking love it. Margie, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us and let us hear your story and your decision hour.
Oh, thank you. My pleasure.
Folks, if you're listening to this, again, open up another browser. Go check out Margie's, all of her, check out the books, the deck of 52, listen to the audiobook. Go to her website, marjiekeastman.com. We'll have all the social media stuff up as well, where you can reach out to her. Follow her. These cards are only available till the end of this year, so get them. They make great stocking stuffers, and the holidays are right around the corner. Margie, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you all go, we want to make sure that we give a huge shout out to our parent network, Heroes Media Group. Go check out all the great shows and things that they got coming up here. Now that the holiday season is right around us, they're going to be busy traveling quite a bit. So if you're in the area, go say hi to those folks that are out on the road for Heroes Media Group. Go to www.heroesmediagroup.com. That's all the time I have today, folks. Until next time, you've been listening to The Decision Hour.